Live and die by shades of gray. Hey. Yo. Yo. Trying to get everybody's poppers ready to go. Should have already put split rings on these, but I haven't. I'm behind. Frank, you're early. You're always early. Very punctual. Brian, howdy. Very punctual. I was watching this video yesterday, soft white underbelly video about this clown with OCD, and listening to him tell the story about his life. Although I don't have the trauma he does, made me realize that I probably have a touch of OCD. Not extreme, but there are hints of it. Builder Dude. Soft white underbelly is hard to watch. I got to be in the mood for it, because it can bring you down. So should probably not talk about it, because then it'll bring everybody else down, and I don't want to bring everybody else down. I want everybody else to be glad. David, what's up? Builder Dude, Jason, Tyler, AJ, what's everybody doing? AJ, did you fix your little unmasking blender? Or did you just throw that one in your box? Brendan, hello. Going to your second job today, where they throw $1 bills at you? Or were you giving away $1 bills? Living down my shades of gray. I've been listening to Robert Earl Keen this morning, and it's got me fired up. And then I went down the wormhole. And started listening to Robert Earl Keen covers. And then that just disgusted me, and I decided to come on here and talk to y'all instead. Because, yeah. Faith First, how are you? Did you get in trouble last night, or was everything PC? Correct. That's my favorite Robert Earl Keen song. But I like the fast version. A lot of guys were like, the people that covered it were like all the like slow, like drag it on, and I didn't. I like the upbeat. I like the upbeat. I don't know that I've ever heard Chris Knight's, because I've only listened to Robert Earl Keen's. First time I heard that song, I was in Austin, and there was a dude that did flooring, and he was unloading his like wood floor from a job, and it was the summer. It was hot as shit. We were down there, and like, I mean, it's literally like a little dirt path, and then there's like storage units, pretty much. And he was going to put his wood in his storage unit and his flooring and materials and stuff. And he pulled up, and I think the dude had a drinking problem. He pulled up in his old Chevy, old, same model as mine. We pulled up, had shit all in the back. Till he probably had a little buzz, sweating his ass off. Bad day at work, and he had shades of gray blasting as loud as his radio and speakers would allow. And he got out and started throwing flooring and shit in his damn storage unit. And I was sitting there listening to it and watching him, and I was like, man, what a picture. What a picture this paints. Uh, whatever kindness fails in a long version of the original forever. My favorite. There you go. I need to make me a playlist for the travels. Um, yeah, I had fun on Hella last night. I'm going to do a tour, to go on a tour of the ponds and the river, so I know what to tell them tonight. 11 hours, 59. There you go. Is there a Bassmaster event tonight? I mean, this weekend? Already? Robert Earl Keen is the Bob Dylan of Texas country. And the thing about it is, like, if you're not into that kind of music, or even if you are, and you listen to Robert Earl Keen's vocals, he's not the greatest vocalist, similar to Bob Dylan. But if you hear someone else sing his songs, it doesn't work. Like, he's such a great storyteller with how he sings. Like, you have, like, I heard, I listened to some covers, and guys with way better technical vocal ability sound horrible. But and they all want to sing it, and it's not that kind of song. You know what I mean? Like, they want to put like tons of vibrato in their voice, and it sounds like damn opera. It's like, you're missing the whole point, dude. Like, chill with the opera stuff. 5-Pound Bass. That was the first Robert Earl Keen song I ever heard, and I was like 10. 12 or 13 or something like that. I remember I was young. And somebody's like, have you heard the 5-Pound Bass song? I was like, no. And I had no idea it was Robert Earl Keen. But Chris Knight's like the people's like, I don't feel like Chris Knight gets the publicity that other people do, but I feel like the real dudes are like Chris Knight fans. Another MLF on a smallmouth factory. There you go. We shall see how that goes. Why did Crete get booted? Or he didn't get booted, but he didn't go. Brian, I would, but I don't have any Chex Mix made. I would have to make some. I was thinking about that actually this morning. Because here's the problem with Chex Mix. We'll have a little conversation about Chex Mix. So my mom, she used to make it, and she'd make it in a Pyrex dish, glass dish, but then she would store it in a Ziploc bag. And the problem with the Ziploc bag is uh, after it's set in there for a few days, it would end up tasting like a Ziploc bag. The ingredients would absorb the plastic, and it would taste like ass. So I started thinking about the little dime bags, and I was like, I can't ship this in dime bags because it's gonna taste like plastic. So if I put it in just like a sandwich bag, so I started thinking about it. I was like, well, maybe I need to find like little miniature glass jars or something, or maybe like maybe some sort of food, like something that's made for that, like some sort of like chip bags, and just put it in that. Hell, maybe I get something made. Um, so I got to figure out how to do that. I got to figure out a bag that won't leak its carcinogens onto the wonderful Chex Mix. So you get it in its purest form. Live and die by shades of gray. Oh yeah. Andy Morgan will be pitching a jig. I hope so. I hope he does. That would be wonderful. I'd like to see it more out of waxed paper, possibly. Do they sell those? Yeah, I gotta do some research on little baggies that don't make your food taste like plastic. I'm sure somebody sells them, but make a tinfoil pouch, and then you could make it into a hat if you wanted to. Uh, Clear bags sells food grade bags. Okay, I'll look them up. But I mean, technically, like a Ziploc is food grade, right? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I've never dealt with food. Uh, why will you throw out my rings, Brennan? These are just as good as anything you put on there. Don't tell me you're gonna put owner hyperwire on there. I didn't know we had a. I didn't know. I didn't know we've. You don't trust me. You don't trust me in my 40 years of experience fishing, putting baits and selling baits together. That I would put shitty split rings on it. Interesting. You don't trust the split rings that I put on every bait I own? Hmm, odd. Brennan, everything I use in here is everything I use personally. That's why I buy it. Because if I get stuck with all this shit, I get to use it. I'm not gonna buy a bunch of rinky dink stuff and then be like, oh well, I've got 10,000 really crappy split rings. Like literally every bait in my tackle box has these split rings on it. He's Sean Painter, dude. Uh, he must have stayed out in the club too long last night. He must have stayed up too late counting his ones. Yeah, I don't know what you would ever encounter that would straighten one of these out. Brennan's still learning, but still, I mean, Brennan, you should know me as much as we've spoken that I wouldn't. Uh, I'm not going to send you something that's going to fail willingly, knowingly, especially on this. Although that would probably be better if you sent the bait with faulty split rings. That way, if there is a failure, you do get your bait back. You can't get into the club. Like spring one if you open them too much. I don't typically open them too wide with the Zurons. Maybe the Texas tackles. The only thing bending those out is someone not knowing. Yeah, that's what I would. I think that's for all split rings. So, if you if you get your extra large Texas tackle pliers and gap them open, I tell you, if I see one that's like got a gap in it, I'll usually throw it away. Typically, but I don't open mine. Like I open mine just enough to get it started, and then I just roll it on to where I don't like gap it open and then like make it the easiest to get on. Yeah, that's the only time when you're trying to put something on one of those. And I've seen so many swim baits come like that from people that like build the baits. They'll send the bait with a they'll send the bait with huge gaps in the split rings. Marty put it in the bathtub, didn't you? Asmus Eve Darius. I'll be leaving work at 4 and heading straight to the water. That's so wild. Yeah. If y'all don't like that weird looking thing, it's TK's fault. I didn't dream this banana up. Burns, you don't like the banana? Feathered treble? I don't know. I don't throw feathered trebles on stuff. I didn't try it. I mean, if you want to kill the action, you're certainly uh, welcome to try it, but this bait was not tested with a feathered treble, so I don't know what it will do or won't do. But the one I had did everything I wanted it to do without feathers, so I can't speak on feathers. I don't typically like them. Um, let's see. The only time I beef up on split rings on swim baits with big hangers. Yeah, I feel like I've seen people put. It's usually like I feel like Mickey, like 316 baits have pretty gigantic hangers on them. And I feel like I've gotten a few of those in with hooks on them that people have replaced, or split rings they've replaced, and they've been too small and gapped open. Chartreuse feather. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know what they'll do with a feather. It might work fine, but I wouldn't. I would start without it first. That way you don't get a sour taste in your mouth. Float test, and it was perfect. I'm not bringing that one around anymore. The prototype. That one. That's the one. And I did throw it with a split ring on the front. I know some people throw poppers tied direct, but when I was testing this one, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't tie direct. I tied to this. I tied to the split ring. So this is the one. Are you gonna switch Hella's legs on film? What did I do to Bama Bass? The Big Gull Island Beer Fest. That sounds fun. Why does Mickey not put swiveling hardware? Probably because he thinks it's dumb. The same reason I do. Not use it. Probably the other reason is probably because other people started doing it. That's probably the number one. But yeah, this one, I'll be interested to see what this one does after some guys experiment with it to see what different combinations of things do what. But yeah, I've never trusted them anyway. Jeremy, it's such a giant mass of bait that I think whatever it is, however your hooks are twisting or turning, it's all a speed game. Hook them, get them to the boat as fast as you can. Doesn't matter if your swivels, hang, twist, do what. I don't like them. I don't like them. About 1,000 pleasure boats and yachts around the island. 3-day party ever since. Me half naked drunk woman all my life. Darius, was this by design? Did you know about Beer Fest and plan your trip? Are you ripping smallies off of a pontoon right now? Off a beer barge? That's what I'm saying, Jeremy. Too much time. Oh, yeah. I did. I did. I'll admit to that. Hayden. I didn't know that's what you were referring to. But it didn't start off that way. I don't know if you've heard this story before, but oh, you left the day before. Damn, you missed all the festivities. Um, but yeah, the day with Bama Bass, we went to this lake, and we started off like at dark that morning. Like we got out there early, and we were going down the bank, and he was like, I like this Pepper's custom baits. I think he called it Gilly was the color, and it had two little like gold blades on it. And he's like, uh, I like this bait. It imitates a bluegill, whatever, blah blah blah. And I just had like one of mine. The I think I've still got the bait. I retired it. Yeah, there it is. So his had little bitty blades on it. Had like a number 3 and like a 3.5 Colorado, I think. Like um, really small Colorado blades. And I was throwing this one. And this is like probably a number 6 Willa and a probably a 4 or 4.5 up front. And we were going down the bank, and I was throwing this, and he was throwing the little bitty Gilly. It's like green pumpkin skirt, kind of greeny orange head, and those little bitty gold blades. And I was like, if there's big ones in here, I'm throwing something with some blades on it. And the water is pretty clear. And we were going down a shaded bank at like the crack of dawn. And we made it like, I don't know, 50 yards. And he sticks like a 5-pounder. And then we went, and he said, let's go over here to this side. I said, all right. And he threw his bait behind the boat. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, I've caught some big ones trolling behind the boat. And I was like, nah, dude. Like, this is garbage. And dude, we start trolling across the lake, and he's just got his rod stuck out beside the boat. And he goes, oh, there he is. And starts reeling. It's like a 4-pounder. I was like, wow. The pond master is putting it on me. And then something happened. We got to the other side of the lake, and the sun came out. It cracked. And once the sun came out, I commenced to hammering their ass. And we're not talking just a little bit, a lot. And it wasn't giants. I call it like a 5.5, but like volume was insane. But it really threw me off first thing that morning that like he had caught 9 pounds of fish and 2 fish, and I hadn't got a bite yet. I was like, what is going on? And but the sun popped out, and the game changed. But that was all with that. That was that exact spinnerbait. That was the one I was throwing that day. I even had the same skirt because I put the wacky band on it, and my skirt didn't move. It stayed in place all day. How about that? What? That was the one. It's probably the megabass eyes that caught him. The downward looking eyes. But that was a very fun day. Probably had to build a new pond. Oh, maybe that's why I haven't heard from him since then. Megabass, if you're watching, I'm sorry I ripped on so many bass that day. Thought that was my job. Can you tell us about the Alabama Shake? Yeah, I mean, it's more to float the jig, kind of, because we're typically fishing it in like stalk type grass. Um, and I feel like you fish it a little slower when you're shaking it. It floats differently um, while you're doing it, and I don't really know why. The only thing I've come up with why the northern fish won't eat it like they do in the south is that it's a different. I don't know if they're like hanging in a different part of the water column, and like the fish that we're catching, because people still do it at like Gunnersville and catch them. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Why I'm gonna do it. I've got to. Just like anybody else that's ever gone from Alabama up north, I have I have to see for my with my own two eyes that it doesn't work. Um, so I don't know why, but I don't know. I feel like it's just got a little different. It just it does something different. Um, yeah, you just gotta pop it and let your line kind of tick the water. I think there might actually be something to that too. Um, they're giving 97 for a high on Sunday. The water should be getting right for that. The only Bama person that doesn't do the Alabama shake in Bama. I don't know what. Yeah, I still I don't know that anybody's been able to figure out that riddle of why northern fish will not eat the Alabama shake. Our river fishing here, they either want something flipped on the bottom or they are total opposite and want something up. Um, yeah, with a swim jig, it's typically how fast do they want it. It's all a speed thing. Um, and I've seen, I one of the best swim jig bites I've ever got on in my life was in open water, and it was a total fluke because these fish were set up like off this little shallow point, and the on the point had grass on it, and this was a post spawn bite, like early summer, and I never knew these fish were there because I was fishing the grass, and so I went up and I was kind of off the edge of the point, and I threw up to the grass and I swam my jig off, and then I started pumping it to reel it back in, just like dicking around. And when I tell you I was like reeling it in, I was like reeling it in as fast as I could, but I was still pumping it, and it was like right on the surface, just going. And a 4 pounder blasted it, and I could not reel this jig any faster. I was like, hmm. So I was like, that's interesting. I got that fish in and did it again and caught another four, and I was reeling it as fast as I could, and like I said, it was in open water. And after that, I was like, well, that's new. So the speed thing, like making it float, that's it depends on their mood because I've really caught a bunch fishing it super fast. I typically fish a swim jig very fast, um, but and I know a lot of guys they like uh, quarter ounce swim jigs. I've never been a quarter ounce fan. I've always swam a 3/8. And if I want it to sink slow, I'll just beef up the trailer and make the trailer bigger so it falls slower and acts like a quarter. Um, yeah, if your jig's too light, the jig won't stay in the water. The grass will lift it out. That is very true. If you're fishing stalk grass, Morgan, y'all got plenty of that. So that's the thing about like the quarter ounce, like to fish it slow enough, like it just kind of floats around, and I don't feel like I can get the bites I'm looking for with a lighter jig. I need a 3/8 at least. Um, but even when you use a 3/8 ounce head with a bigger trailer that floats it a little lighter, you still have that weight that like the bulk that keeps the bait down, like you said. Um, the problem I found with quarter ounce jigs is that typically you can't get a good hook in them. Like the hook you can fit in a 3/8 won't fit in a quarter. Uh, but now there's some better hook options out there, so I should probably revisit. That's the other reason I never threw a quarter, is because I could never find a quarter ounce jig that had a good hook in it, or something that I wouldn't flex out. Uh, so I figure Northern's automatically did the Alabama shake when they're freezing their ass off. You would think should be the opposite. Slow Southern people would just sit there and reel, but because they only get fish for 6 months out of the year and don't have to be triggered to get a reaction bite. Might be something to that. Uh, I don't need a super big hook in the summer, but I do need a big enough hook that it doesn't flex. So there's a happy medium there. Like standard hooks don't apply. Um, Morgan, I can't do that, dude. I can't throw a big bushy skirted jig. I like 2.5 pads. That's like the magic number for me. And then once it gets chewed down to about uh, a pad and 3/4, then it's getting real good. That's about where I like to keep them. But I'm not a fan of big bushy skirts. Like when you've got a bitsy flip and you've had it for like 3 years and it's got like 4 strands left on it, and like 3 of them are sticking up on this side, and like they're all different sizes, and then you've got like one long one on this side. That's when it's the best. AJ, 2.5 is thick for you. What do you like? 2? I'll put up any of them. I don't think I have. What do I have? I've got some green ones. 3/8 I could put up. That one. Um, I still have a few of those and have some black ones. I don't have any white ones. Um, Chatters and swim jigs, 1.5. That's pretty thin, but that's probably what mine get worn down to when I start liking them. Think about how many swim jigs to fish at places like Gunnersville see. Gunnersville is child's play for swim jigs compared to Lay Lake. That's the interesting thing about it is like where that whole bite, like that whole swim jig thing, Alabama Shake went down on the Coosa. Like that's how you catch them on the Coosa, and those fish are the most smart pressured swim jig fish on the planet. You know what I mean? Like they've seen the best swim jig people on the planet all week, every week. Every week for the last 20 years. Uh, oh, the rubber is just one tab, so I don't know the rest. I never could get behind rubber because I had rolls of it and I could never get it to lay flat. Like I tried boiling it and straightening it out and like putting it in a book to getting it flat, but anytime I would cut it, it would have like this weird like kink in the like certain section of the rubber, and it's like it bothered me. It probably wouldn't matter in the water, but I didn't like looking at it. Um, Speaking of hovering jigs, has anybody ever experimented with the zero gravity jig? Morgan, you probably have. It was originally like a custom lures unlimited. Now it's catch outdoors. Same guy though, Kelly. But that jig was always interesting. Still to this day, it's one of those baits. I'm like, I wonder what that thing does. No, dude over in the Carolina makes it. Zero gravity jig. Uh, let's see. Let's see what they say about it. They fluctuate our water to a line. Sometimes the grass lays over wind. They drop the water and you got a bump the head size. Samesies. Every once in a while, a revolutionary concept sweeps through the fishing industry and starts to raise some eyebrows. The zero gravity jig has been the catalyst for such a reaction. Constructed from a non lead material and precisely shaped, the zero gravity jig has earned its name from all the incredibly slow 1 foot per 3 seconds rate of fall. When fishing a jig, it's not uncommon to get bit on the drop, so prolonging the amount of time spent descending can only have one result: more fish. Not only does the zero gravity jig rate of fall create a desirable characteristic for the traditional jig fishing, it also opens up other avenues. The near neutral descent allows anglers to wake it, swim it, jerk it, and even Carolina rig it. In addition, the zero gravity jig makes an ideal choice following cold fronts or when swimming through grass pads, trees, or stumps. The zero gravity jig comes equipped with a patented fusion banded die cut skirt with built in kicker legs. It's got a 4-aught black nickel VMC jig hook. The innovative jig design construction of the 0.21 ounce jig presents a slow moving snack for lethargic fish and ushers in the next generation of bass fishing jigs. Uh, Catch Outdoors. Catch Outdoors, which was previously Custom Lures Unlimited. So this is probably some sort of composite resin foam head. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's made out of, but it's very light. Um, but I never bought one to try for swimming, but they seem interesting. Hmm. They still make it. Megabass made a jig. I don't know when Megabasses came out, but I feel like this dude was first because this thing's been out for probably 20 years. Uh, Travis, how's the fishing? Have you ever used a zero gravity jig? Land Big Fish offers them. Here, Tackle Tour did a review of them. What year was this? The rate of fall 1 foot every 3 seconds. That's pretty slow. Doesn't Tackle Tour usually date their reviews? They got an 8.25 rating. Minus, they have 3 pluses, they have 1 minus. The plus is there is truly nothing like this on the market. A nice simple array of standard colors. Uniquely versatile. Really, it's more than just a jig. The one minus that they have about this bait is that the skirt needs to be tied. Versatile, pricey for a jig, but it's more than a jig. The trailer with the skirt is a nice touch, though, maybe too subtle. Very, very versatile is the application. It gets a 9. Kyle, I feel like it would be like the weight. It would be like almost like a wacky rigged Cinco type fall, but a jig. Like I said, I never experimented with it, and I don't know anybody that has. Fishing's bad today. I had to just fish for whites for the last 2 hours. Well, as long as you get your string pulled. Need to go to the previous page. Date 2011. So it's been out 12 years. Pretty good while. Pretty good while. It was $4.99, and they said it's a little pricey for a jig. How about that? 1 foot and 3 seconds is more yum dinger. So it's slower. I was pouring jigs before I started really swimming them heavily before I threw an old Strike King. But once I started really swimming them, I started pouring home. Yeah, once you start swimming them, you get weird about your hooks. Search engine optimization. Yeah, what's the SEO? What SEO are you referring to? Oh, I need to pour some epoxy. I need to pour epoxy. What is this? That's too sharp. Yes. The name, not very Googleable. The zero gravity jig. Any tips on ledge fishing? Yes. Number one, look for something different. Find you a straight piece of ledge, and then find when it does something weird. Oh, Catch Outdoors. Oh, dude. Custom Lures Unlimited was so awesome. I don't know. I'm sure he got into some tax issues or something and had to change his name. But Custom Lures Unlimited was awesome. But yeah, tips on ledge fishing. I try to keep it pretty simple. So pull you out a map. Look for long, straight, featureless sections of the ledge, and then wait for it to do something different. Unless you want to just idle down long stretches of straight parts of it and look for shell beds and hard spots and stuff like that, like the little microscopic stuff. But the easiest way is to, I've found, to find just a little hook in it, a little indention. But and then I feel like once you find enough of those, and And the depth is important. Like as the summer goes on, they use different ledges and different depths and that kind of stuff. But uh, that's usually, to me, that's when you're trying to target like specific size fish. If you're just trying to catch fish, there'll still be fish on the stuff you caught them on earlier in June. Um, but in July, you might find that if you fish those same spots that you caught them on in June, there'll still be fish on them, but the big ones maybe would have moved to like a deeper ledge. Um, but after that, I feel like once you feel like you've got a pretty good spot and you think there's some fish there, you just need to have a circulation of baits. You have to cycle through baits, and you can do it pretty fast because typically they're gonna show themselves on something. Um, but like when I was fishing Kentucky Lake a bunch, um, my search bait. Most people use search baits as crankbaits and such, or something that you could wind fast. But I did not. I would use a 3/4 ounce football head as my search bait, and the reason being was not that I could cover water faster, but that I could get bit faster. I could catch bigger fish on a crankbait, but I would have to throw a crankbait a lot more to get the bite than I would just trying to figure out where the fish were. So when I would practice, I would just take a 3/4 ounce football head jig and I would just drag it around and drag it real fast. And that would tell me the fastest, because there wasn't any side scan or anything back then. And the ledges were shallow enough that you couldn't really run over the top of them to see if there were fish there. Um, so the only way you could see them is if they were off the ledge and kind of suspended, but that would kind of typically tell you if there was some up on the ledge. You knew there were fish there or there were shad there, and they were typically fish up. Um, but yeah, uh, I would use a football head as a search bait, and then I would come back and I would crank like a 6XD or 5XD, and that's how I was able to get a better bite. Uh, that particular practice I'm talking about. But that all changes. But I feel like you need a big worm. You need a crankbait. Probably need a football head, wobble head even, uh, some sort of swim bait, um, spoon. Like there's all kinds of different baits that you need to cycle through to see what kind of mood they're in and what makes them react. Um, but like for example, I fished a tournament and I pulled up to this ledge, and this was my starting hole, and the water had gotten drawn down, and I had all my like circulation of baits that I was going to fish this ledge with, and I started out with a crankbait and didn't get any bites. Threw a worm out there, didn't get a bite. Threw a lipless out there, didn't get a bite. Threw like a shallower diving bait out there, didn't get a bite. Um, and I threw a spoon out there, didn't get a bite. Threw like a swim bait out there, didn't get a bite. Like nothing I was doing, like out of the like 10 rods I had rigged up to like test these fish, nothing worked. And I was like, man, that's really weird. And I looked down and I was like, all right, what's left? Uh, what hasn't, what haven't I thrown? And I picked up I had a black and blue jig tied on, like a 1/2 ounce black and blue jig. And I was like, well, try this. Whiz that out there. Dude, it barely hit the bottom. Don't. 3 pound spot. And what I think had happened, uh, interestingly enough, was that I think when the water fell, that it did something to the crawfish. I don't know if it made the crawfish kind of move around, like the water on their back started getting pulled out, and they kind of started moving their little their dwelling maybe a little deeper, or they started doing something. But by the water dropping, the fish completely transitioned from a 100% like shad normal summer bite to a crawfish bite. And I typically very rarely see that. Like most of the stuff you catch them on in the summertime is shad related or bluegill related. I very rarely catch fish on crawfish kind of stuff, but yeah, you just kind of gotta get a feel for what the fish are doing. And they have different moods and they do different things. And but then I mean, it gets way nerdier if you want to go into like, you know, fish size and when fish do this and when they school up and when big ones school up together, when big ones school up with little ones, when big ones go off on their own, when they do the reverse. I mean, that's like super nerd ledge stuff, but yeah, it's just a matter of how nerdy you want to get. Um, we're gonna just can't do the community whole thing, even when you're a good a ways away. You see them catching you, so you know you got 4 to 10 boats screaming up on you. Drop shot. Yeah, I never, Darius. When I was doing my ledge work, drop shotting was. Honestly, I don't think it was even necessary then. Like the bite was so good, like which drop shotting wasn't a big deal then, but it wasn't. Uh, I really don't think it was that necessary. Now it probably is, but then, like, you know, just standard stuff. You were there. I don't know how long you've been drop shotting out there, but uh, did you drop shot in like 2008? What I'm saying is any jackwagon can catch them in late May or June on the obvious stuff, but later in the summer, after those fish get blasted, the schools bust up and get on sneaky stuff. Yeah, that's a weird time of year. If your fish scatter out, and that's typically what happens to us is like the fish will get out in the river good in June, and then once it gets real hot, they start kind of slipping up. The schools break up, and then the fish kind of start scattering out, and you'll catch them on random stuff that's kind of like it's close, but it's not, and it's shallow, and uh, um, yeah, that's a tricky time of year to catch a big bag. Um, I feel like that's not. I don't feel the most confident in. You just typically see shitty weights that time of year, like where I fish. Like in June, you'll see a 22-pound bag. July, 17 is a good one. Um, but I never. I don't know. I don't like. I Carolina rigged out in Texas, but I never kept a. I never kept a. I never kept a Carolina rig tied on much. I always let Jody do that. So when you have to graph the stuff that doesn't look good on a map. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's when you have to find those like micro bumps in the ledges and the micro stuff. The best way, like some of the best offshore stuff I've ever found, and the best schools of fish I've ever found that were literally on nothing. And I say they were on nothing, they were on something, but you couldn't see it on a map. You couldn't, like, there was just some little weird irregularity on the bottom that I don't know. With electronics now, you could probably see, but back then you couldn't. Um, but it was just fish coming up schooling. You'd see a couple fish like chase a shad or something and bust, and then you're like, oh, let me go over there and see what that is. And you sit there and catch like 20 on 20 casts. Hmm. Like that happened to me one day. I was fishing this part of the ledge where I thought the best part was, and and there was this little like indention on the back of the ledge, and it wasn't big, and you had to like go over mud to get to it, but there was like this little back ledge that had this little like indention in it, and that I think I caught 40 out of that one little hole. But while I was fishing, I saw this fish come up and like pop a couple times, and I like picked my trolling motor up and like ran through the mud and went over there and started fishing. And like in a million years, nobody will ever find those fish. Um, Strangely enough, like unless you saw them schooling, you would never like pull up and start fishing there. It was really, and the good thing about it is that it was close to the bank. Like they weren't on the bank; they were like on this weird little depression edge, um, and you really would never notice it. Um, yeah, no netting for me, no drop shotting. Um, Going to the headwaters, find the moving water. Yeah, it's a good option. Um, but I spent a lot. I spent a lot of time fishing off the bank. I got obsessed with it for a little while. Um, like as much as I talk about liking to fish shallow, I've probably got more time like on the Alabama River fishing off the bank than I do on the bank. Because you kind of got to because of spots. And there's certain in like certain times a year you have to find like shear drops, like where the ledge doesn't taper, it like falls off completely, and they'll like hang on that lip. Like I said, there's like so many different scenarios of stuff and times a year where they get on certain little micro stretches of a ledge that has like one different variation, or you have to find a place where it tapers off and then runs into that like sheer drop, and they'll get on that like little edge. But it's just like I said, it's just a lot of it's a lot of idling, a lot of. I think you can learn the most probably from reading a map. I know I don't know that people do it much anymore. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But that's what I feel like taught me the most was just I would just study maps like religiously. I would sit down, put Bassmasters on, and then I would just pull out a map of where I was going fishing, and I would just like read the map for hours. And I would try and like make little uh, notes of where I wanted to go and where I wanted to try. Um, I know I'm missing out on the drop shot, dude. The first time I ever experienced, like, I had tried a drop shot before, and I never could really like get the feel for it. We never connected, the drop shot and I. And then I was fishing in this private lake with this guy, and it was really clear. And he said there's gonna be some schooling fish today. I was like, okay. He said, but they're really hard to catch. And usually when somebody tells me that, I'm like, challenge accepted. I got enough stuff I can catch those things. Like I know how to catch them. And I was like, I'll catch some bastards. And he's like, no. And I was like, you don't think? He's like, no. He's like, they're really hard to catch. And so I went through my little like, they came up schooling, and I went through my little circulation of. I went through my little circulation of schooling fish baits. They didn't work, and so, hmm. And he's like, "Can we tell you how to catch them?" I was like, "Sure." He said, "Get that spinning rod out of the boat, out of the rod locker." I was like, "All right." So I went down there and got the spinning rod out. He's like, "Get you one of them little 4-inch watermelon finesse worms and wacky rig it." So, okay. And it was on a drop shot. And he's like, "Throw it out there in the middle of them." Like, all right. So I whizzed it out there, and he said, "Just let it go to the bottom." So I let it go to the bottom. Got a bite. Like, how about that shit? And that was my first like experience with a drop shot actually working, and it was on schooling fish in like 12 feet of water. Really bizarre, but yeah, I'm with you, Jeremy. I would like to probably experiment with the power shot a little more. Um, every time I go, I never like think about it, just because I don't understand the difference. You know what I mean? Like I do, but it's like I just rather just I just pitch a worm. Um, you drag your drop shot. No shaky. No Alabama shaky. I think my first issue when I first started drop shotting without was that my weights were too heavy. I would take like a half ounce and like a trick worm, and that thing would go. Shoo. But I wanted to feel it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to like get to the bottom and like get going. Um, then I switched up my weights, and when it started going a little lighter, lost a little feel. But my buddy weighed in 2/7 last year. I weighed in 18 in the club on a drop shot this year. Hey Jay, maybe you're gonna have to make me. Maybe you're gonna have to teach me how to drop shot. Maybe I'm just not a drop shotter. Does Denny Brower drop shot? Does anybody know? Has anybody seen Brower post on Facebook or the gram? Here's my drop shot setup. Or is he just still out there doing Brower stuff? If he's doing Brower stuff, I'm just gonna do Brower stuff. I wonder what the last thing. I wonder what the last technique Brower saw and was like, man, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try this Nico rig. Just don't think of a drop shot as a smallmouth technique with tiny baits. I use a 6-inch rubber worm, but I don't like that. I use trick worm. That's what I always used was a trick worm. But like my buddy Keith gets bit on it. I can't get bit on it. In the same like catching the same fish. I just don't have a feel for it. Like because my bait is not a like that extra line. I don't feel like I know where my worm like where my worm's at. Probably flipping a tube. The last time Brower experimented was with a tube. All that weight, flipping it under docks. Yuck. I guess those fish were suspended. No, I've never. Like I said, I don't jive with the drop shot. Weightless stuff I can get behind, but drop shot and me never saw eye to eye. Mainly, maybe it was a feel thing. Like it was like shaking the worm and then like moving the weight and trying not to shake the weight and then shaking the worm and like I never got a feel for what like I think it's because I never got enough bites to let me know what the fish preferred. You know what I mean? I know, Darius. The only reason I ever tried half the shit I've ever tried is because of Aaron. He was like, he was like the one. This is the God's honest truth. Aaron Martins was like the only person that moved the needle for me to make me try stuff out of the norm that I trusted. He was literally the only dude on the Elite Series that I trusted. That when he did something and he would like show you a technique, like I was drinking the Kool Aid. Um, I 100% trusted him. Like the reason I threw the the what's the wobble head thing that's got the blade on the jig head. He called it the fish head or whatever. Um, Only reason I ever threw one of those because of him. Couldn't hook fish on it, but I got a lot of bites. Scrounger, yeah, Scrounger. Um, Drop shotting was because of Aaron. The only reason I have red crawler robo worms is because of Aaron. Um, the only reason I throw a swamp donkey is because of Aaron. Um, there's probably a lot more I can think of if I would just sit here and go through this office. Uh, Reasons I do things. Um, yeah, there's a lot of Aaron Martin's uh, influence in my fishing. But I trusted that dude. I think that's the difference is that I trusted him. And I didn't, like I said, I got trust issues. I didn't trust everybody else. I trusted Aaron. And he was so polar opposite of like everything that like I did. What he did was very interesting to me. So I gravitated towards Aaron. And just seeing the fish he found was very interesting to me. Like for instance, they were at the Alabama River. And I've talked about this before, but I fished Alabama River, and their Bassmasters was up there, and they were at Cooter's Pond. And I think it was like Zona. They had a camera on him, and they were doing like a live segment with Aaron, and it was like live on the water. And he said he was fishing down the bank, and he went past a marker buoy, like a channel marker, and he said you can catch them on those marker buoys. And the cameraman was like, "Do what?" And he's like, "You see that marker buoy over there?" He's like, "You can catch them on that marker buoy." And he said, "I caught them on all of them in practice." He said, "But they were small." And he's like, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Who goes to the Alabama River and fishes channel markers and catches them?" And I think that was what really blew like that was why Aaron was like the only guy, because he was like he went against everyone's grain. You know what I mean? And I think that was what attracted me the most to him, was that kind of when I was growing up reading fishing magazines, once I kind of got old enough to fish and understand fishing, I kind of started realizing that the most of what I read didn't really apply to me, and it didn't work for me. And then seeing Aaron, he was kind of like he fished the same way as I felt, that like nothing is out of the question, except he was better than everybody else at it. And like he would put bites like that together when nobody else would think to do it. And I don't know, he always kept me with an open mind. I hate he's gone, because that was I felt like there was so much to learn from that guy that never got seen. But yeah, he was the one guy I always wanted to paint for, and then I found out he was colorblind. That kind of that kind of broke my heart, because he was like my because he was so nerdy on tackle. I was like, man, I'd love to paint for this dude, and to like get nerdy with him, and be like, hey, dude, you dream something up and let me try and create it. And then I saw some interview, and he was like, yeah, I can't even see color. Like, dude, I could paint this guy the most beautiful bait on the planet, and he would look at it and it would be gray. Aaron. Okay. Bird bite was Havasu. Yeah. Another another wild Aaron bite. Hey, who wore it better, Freshie or Oldie? You have a preference? Resin, plastic? Um, Baby blackbirds falling to their demise. That was cool. Got bit off channel markers on Gunnersville. I took a scrounger up St. Clair because they work so good at Kentucky, and the big smallmouth would kill it. Never seen it up there before, probably. Darius, did you have a problem hooking fish with the scrounger? My biggest issue with the scrounger was that I could not hook fish. I tried everything, dude, and I just could not like. And this was over the course of like a summer, where I'd throw it out there, and I was ledge fishing, and I would get so many bites on it, but I would, out of 10 bites, I would catch maybe one or two. Um, Difference in the tails. Yeah, this one's got a lot more tail. That's about even. A little bit longer. I wonder why they didn't make it exact. You know what I mean? If you're copying a bait. Um, y'all see G-Man making him a PB&J with his fingers? I did not see that. Uh, Missed comments. I never trusted the pros. I always had in my head all they was doing was selling product. For the most part, they were. Learned how to tie keepers on my drop shots from him. Yes, I also learned how to. I watched him put heat shrink inserts in all his tungsten. What do you think I did? Went and put heat shrink in all my tungsten, just like Aaron. Dude, there was so much shit that Aaron turned me on to. If Aaron said this hook was good, I believed it. And like I said, I didn't really trust anybody else. Never had a problem on a tiny scrounger. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what my problem with my scrounger was. Maybe I needed to throw it on a really light action rod. Lighter. I don't know. I don't know. I never solved it. I just quit throwing it. I probably didn't throw it on a light action rod because I don't own any. So if I did, I would have had to go back to like my rods from middle school and find something that would work. Okay, who in the world still uses boat seats up front? My dad. Any of our dads? Um, hell, I own a mini me 1.5 ounce spinnerbait because of Aaron. I threw a spinnerbait on the ledges because of Aaron. Telling you, like, there's a lot that because he was the guy that I would watch obsessively. Like I would just like search like Aaron Martin's videos because I believed them, and like I said, I trusted them. I can't think of any other pro that I would like tip videos. Never did anything for me except his because I always believed that his were legit. That they were thought out and they were like the real deal. People do there because the wind blows a bunch. That would make sense. Oh. I don't have any of my old boxes. I have these bigger ones. I wonder if I can fit 2 of these in one. I wonder if I can fit 2 in one. I might rub. I don't want them to rub. No rubbing. Let's do one. Brendan? No, he didn't. It's still hanging on my wall. I need to find out who that dude was. Because I painted the bait for him originally, and then somebody else messaged me about it. That wasn't him. So I need to get to the bottom of that. Probably leaving bad reviews. Yeah, I'm sure there's a post on Universe. Dude's got my bait, never sent it back. Wrong answer. Don't know where to send it. Don't know who you are. Don't know who you are. I've only been talking about it for a damn year or two. Yeah, I'll have to check. Swimbait Beef and see if there's a post on there. I assure you, I don't want your bait. It hasn't moved since I painted it. Yeah, otherwise I just wouldn't have painted it. I bought a Picasso rhino head, thought Aaron used, but the hook keeps on the wrong side. Can't figure out to save my life. Yeah, that was Aaron's shaky head, and I did experiment with that because when I saw a pic, because he used to hide it. I don't know if any of y'all remember this, but when Aaron first came out with the rhino head, um, he would hide it. He would put his fingers over the head, and he was like, "This is my shaky head, and it's the best." And then when it came out, what it pretty much to me looked like the Do It brush jig. So I had the brush jig mold, and I would just pour the 1/4 ounce brush jig with no weed guard in it, and that was my shaky head. Um, and I would just make that my shaky head, but I only had a 1/4 ounce. But I would throw a big worm on it because I could put a big hook on it, and I could put like a. They didn't have magnum size trick worms back then, but I had a big needle worm that was like 8-9 inches long, and I could put that on it, and it would beef it up. Uh, which one are you trying to get, Burns? What bait have you been trying to get back for 2 years? Burnsy wants it. And then Do It came out with the Randy Howell shaky head. I didn't know Randy. Uh, I didn't know Randy had a Do It mold. I didn't know he was a Do It pro staffer. Is Randy's the same thing? But that was the other thing that sucked. Your KGB. That was the other thing that sucked about. Like I had a great deal of respect. I don't know the owners of Picasso, but I feel like I kind of like the way they do business because they just kind of do their own thing, and they find creative ways to make their products relevant. Like with what they did with the chatterbait, like they needed a chatterbait, and they found a way to make a cool chatterbait design, and they've kind of done their own thing, and they've made a lot of products better, and but they're not real flashy. They're not. They just make good stuff. Um, and they had Aaron on their staff, and I felt like he was huge for a company that size. That he like legitimized them. I feel like without him, that they're not the same. Um, so they basically took the brush jig, and then they just took the jig collar off of it and made it a shaky head. I mean, shaky head collar. A 90-degree mold. Yeah, I think the original brush jig was like 60, I believe. That was a good jig though. I used to that 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 was my go-to jig for years. the brush jig, but it was kind of like the man stone jig, very similar, a little different. Hell, the only reason I bought the brush jig mold was because you couldn't find any jigs like that, like locally. Like, I don't know that I ever saw a man stone jig in a store. Major jig restock. That's a fun thing to do. Buy a bunch of Bitsy flips. Are you a Bitsy flip person? Tennessee Bassmaster? Not restocked jigs in 2 to 3 years. You must have been stocked heavy. You must have been well stocked. That's that. I really do. Bitsy flip disgust you, dude? You must not like catching bass. How can that jig disgust you? What's wrong with the Bitsy flip? Besides its ability to rip fish from anywhere, at any time, under any conditions. Bitsy flip disgusts me. Yeah, you must have confused the Bitsy flip with the Bitsy bug, because the Bitsy bug disgusts everybody because of a little shitty bronze hook. Flip though, I've never heard anybody with a beef on the Bitsy flip. It's like the best product Strike King makes. I've caught about 1 billion bass on a Bitsy bug. I don't know that I've ever caught a bass on a Bitsy bug. I will say I was ahead of my time in the late 90s. I swam a Bitsy bug with a Zoom curly tail chunk, whatever that's called, swimming chunk. And I was swimming it down here in the grass trying to imitate a shrimp. And I was about a few years ahead of the curve. The only problem was I really didn't know what I was doing or when I was doing it. And if I would have landed like I was too young and too dumb to know what I was doing was legit, and I didn't know where to do it, so I would just like randomly swim it around. And back then I was doing it like northern style, where I just reel it, and but I never could connect the dots. I never could get bit on it to where the light bulb went off, so I just like I put it back. All Strike King's tiny jigs. What other ones do they make besides the Bitsy bug and the Bitsy flip? Bitsy flip's the only one you need. It's only 11. For 11, you're pretty angry at the little harmless Bitsy bug. It's only trying to help you catch more bass. It's only trying to help you catch more and bigger bass. I've never had a Bitsy bug fail. A Bitsy flip. No, you're right, Tom. For the price, you can't beat a bitsy flip. Great jig. Great jig. It's hands down my favorite out of the pack jig, I think. And you can get them at Walmart. And they're $2.50. First bass jig was a bitsy flip. That's what I'm gonna bring up north, dude. I bet Hella doesn't have any bitsy flips. Or does he? Y'all think Hella's got bitsy flips? You know of any good white powder pearls that I can spray over white that makes white kind of pearlescent? No, I've never found a white pearl that I was happy with. I'm 14, Brendan. You're 11. Almost snuck that one in. Morgan, are you still watching? You know what that is. Did I show you that? It's the scales. Bitsy flip is the equivalent of Berkeley Vanish. Burn. Oh, that cuts deep. That cuts deep. Yes, on the pooper. That's for me to take up north. God, I can't believe Tennessee Bassmaster went there. That's harsh, dude. That is harsh. I don't know that I've ever been burned like that so bad. And at 14, well played, dude. Berkeley Vanish. Man, oh man. There's my cards. What was that other what's that stuff Boyd used to hawk? Very grainy. They probably have like 10 different white pearls. You have to get like the micro or some micron or macro. They probably have 10 different white pearls that you could choose from. If I know House of Color like I think I know House of Color, I guarantee you they have one that'll spray smooth. I forgot who told me the other day they bought some better line and said they got some of that Berkeley Vanish Fluoro. The what was that company that Boyd was a part of? They sold line. I thought it was a V something. Use big game before Vanish. I don't know how that's even a topic. All right, dudes. Time to pack boxes. Let's see how many I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Need some more. Go back and get some Aztec white. Dehydrate it and thin it with lacquer. Yeah, suck their pearls out. Vicious. Yes, that's what it was. vicious. I heard their line wasn't terrible. Marty used needlepoint pliers behind the barb. Place the finger, the other hand on the shank and pull. There you go. Yes and no. Yeah, Jeremy is not a big game guy. Powder, pearl powder won't look like pearl white paint. I think I bought a spool of 20 to try when it first came out, but I never used it because it was thick. It's extension cord. Ooh, sounds like I'd like it. It was really 30 though. That's what I bought. I've got some 25 of Brazex over there, and that stuff is it's kind of extension cordish. It's a lot. All right. Fixing to say sayonara to all of these. Auto Air was the best. Water-based pearl white. Yeah, Auto Air had great paint. Great paint. Yeah, Yozuri isn't bad. My buddy Keith likes that Yozuri hybrid line. I don't trust it, but he likes it. I don't trust anything but big game, so I'm not worth talking to about line. All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna get off here and get to shipping. Clean off this desk and maybe some room to start stacking boxes and printing labels. Anyway, Wheeler, Lambert, and Hayes won the first MLF team championship, and magically this next go round, boys on the team with Wheeler and Hayes. How about that? I'm sure House of Color has. I'm telling you, House of Color is literally the custom paint. Like I couldn't imagine you calling House of Color customer service and being like, "Do you have like a fine pearl white powder that I don't have to like bury in a lot of clear?" Like, we're House of Color. It's like somebody calling me and saying, "Can you paint my bait white?" Can. Yuzuri Super Braid. All right, dudes. What's Pryor having to say? Uh-oh. Getting a box from Pryor. Daiwa Fluoro. I wouldn't trust Daiwa Fluoro. The only reason is if you get on like AliExpress and Alibaba, everything is Daiwa. Uh-oh. Pryor sent me a package. Because he sold it for $100, Brendan. I don't know what he was thinking. After I saw that, I was like, dude, what is wrong with you? I talked to him for a while last night. I was like, come on, bro. Come on, man. If I were Wheeler, I'd blow my motor up. Oh. Just unhook the just unhook your trolling motor and then just loosen up the whole mount, and then when you put your trolling motor in, the whole thing just falls in the water and be like, whoops. Sorry. The J Fluoro is legit. Daiwa. I wanted to try the only braid that I really wanted to try until I saw the price was that Cigar Smackdown. And the only reason I wanted to try it was because it was a sexy gray graphite color. Um, I saw somebody posted on a reel on Instagram, and I was like, God, give me that braid, dude. What is that? Like, I want my reels to look sexy like that. And I didn't. I looked it up, and it was like $40 for like 100 feet or something. I was like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, I think I've got J braid over there. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I've got here. I've got two J's, 30 and 30. I don't know what I'm doing with 30-pound braid, but um, I thought J braid was cheap. It's probably why I own it in the fluoro. Oh, interesting. All right, dude. I'm about to get everybody's stuff shipped out. And get these get these out of the way. I gotta get all the fingerprints off. Get them nice and shiny. So when the gentleman opens his package, he says, "Ooh, ooh," instead of "Look at all these fingerprints." Swamp dragon snagging line, yeah. I don't know what the perfect swamp dragon line is. Probably 30-pound big game. These are pretty baits, I will say. Beautiful baits. The paint job. Baits still look dumb. I don't know what to do with this Doom Raider, whatever. I painted it, but the fins that came in it are pink. And I really don't know if the dude wants me to put pink fins back in it. They look kind of dumb. So I'm going to send the guy a message before I glue these back in to see if he wants pink fins stuck back in it, or if he wants to dye these or something else. Which do you like painting better, the resin or the plastic? 100% the plastic, because it doesn't have pinholes all in it. Plastic because they're clean. That's why. That's why. Look at that tail. Look at that tail. The plastic doesn't have pinholes. Exactly. Because you can paint on it and it looks exactly like it's supposed to. You know what I mean? Like when this dude gets this bait, he'll say, "Man, that's beautiful." When he gets this one, he'll say, "Man, that's beautiful. Look at all those weird holes on the side." And when you do, when you do what I do, you want things to look clean and orderly, and that plastic one provides that. You can see every detail, you can see every scale, you can see everything. On these, you see it all kind of mixed in with some holes. It does look like it, Jeremy, but I think it's glued in. It's slotted like a slotted kind of like a DRT or something like that. But I think it's glued in place. The first one I ever got, I tried to take it out and it wouldn't come out. I missed a patch of hair right there. But yeah, I thought at first I was like, ooh, that would be cool if they would make that tail interchangeable where you could put a plastic tail on it. But they weren't that smart. They weren't that smart. Or maybe you can. Maybe the I couldn't get it to move. Oh, it did move, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it comes out. Imagine being Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, but there was holes in the roof. Yeah, same concept. Except I'm not Michelangelo. I think about that often though. Uh, like when people like if you were to buy a car that had like 50 bullet holes in it, and then you drove it to the body shop and was like, "Hey, I just picked this car up from the dealership, brand new off the line. I want it, I want it painted white though." And you look at it and you're like, "Did it come with all those holes in the side?" Like, yeah. Okay. You paid for those? Yeah. Brand new? Yeah. $80,000. So, wow. How about that? Plastic tail coming in 2024. Get everyone another year on the waiting list. That's right. Change the tail. They'll add a lip slot and an interchangeable tail. And then they'll be cool. They'll be DRT ish. They'll be JDM ish. Coming soon. 3-piece Chad with a lip that you can take in or out. Interchangeable tails. It's coming. It's not, but it probably is. All right. I'm really going to go this time. Y'all be good. I know Bait Sanity is coming out with a glide, and the tail looks so thick you could paint with it. I saw some bait that they had coming out. Well, that's beside the point. We'll talk about that at a different time. We'll see y'all next time. Adios.